everyone. Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio Podcast. I am your engineer, Kate, and on this episode we have Brandon.
Hello.
Kestrel.
Hi.
Kane.
Hello, hello.
And me, Girly. We are here to talk about the fall season still, technically?
Just barely still, yeah.
Just barely still the fall 2024 anime season. As we move into the holidays shortly, are we almost at I have not been keeping a very good count of episodes. Where are we in the grand scheme of things? How much is left?
Well, we are almost at the end of 2024, therefore we are almost at the end of the anime season.
Yeah, I think most shows have about 10 episodes at this point, unless they've had skips or hiatuses or like feature-length first episodes or something.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, right almost at the very end of the season. So, that's all I've got. What have we got?
Amazing contribution.
Yep.
Well,
that was Kate, everyone.
Yep. Given that we haven't done an episode about just the general season stuff in a while, and we focus so much the last episode on composers and the musical side of it, we do have a decent amount of news to sort of discuss and catch up on. Some of it, I would think, relatively major on the business side of things. I know there's one company in particular that's really going hog wild over the past month, just buying shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit, but I want to pass it over to Kestrel to get us going in that direction.
Yeah, so by the past month, of course, we mean all of this over 2 months ago, because between the Composer episode and the Dragon Ball episode, we have not had an episode where we talk about news in well over 2 months. So first 3 pieces of news here are from more than 2 months ago. Next 3 are from a month or more ago, and then 1 from a few weeks ago. So yeah, we use the word news very loosely here.
It's like in the grand scale of time.
True, yeah.
It's
in
news.
The cosmic sense, yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, in a cosmic sense, it's still breaking.
Yeah. So, breaking news: the One Piece anime will be on hiatus. In fact, the newly edited arc has been running for several months now. So yeah, for the first time in a quarter century, the One Piece anime is taking some time off, and we got One Piece Fan Letter, which was a special episode for its 25th anniversary. And then we went into, we had a week off. Then after that, we went into a newly edited version of the Fishman Island arc. Basically a Dragon Ball Kai kind of treatment for that arc, which is what we got for the next few months. And it's going to super condense it way down, 50-something episodes to 20. And then once that's up, we'll get back to Egghead, and hopefully we will be, just top tier quality all the way through, because they actually got to take time off for the first time in 25 years.
Yeah, rest their hands.
Of all the things to go back and re-edit that arc, why that arc?
Probably because it's the worst, and it was the worst in anime, so they probably figured we can make this a little salvageable. And also, Fan Letter kind of leads directly into it, plot-wise, that also worked.
I also feel like it's a testing ground of sorts, where they're like, oh, if people like these, edit, fixer-upper seasons, maybe they'll tackle Dressrosa after that, which is
exactly.
one of the bigger projects of, that the anime was at a low point. So.
Yeah, I think that run from Fishman Island, Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, that was the nadir of the One Piece anime. The Fishman Island and Dressrosa, the material itself, also pretty bad. Punk Hazard, not amazing. But just the anime production for those 3 arcs was so abysmal. The pacing, the just absolute lack of creativity in any way, the horrible production quality. So yeah, makes sense they're starting here.
The equivalent of the Void Century for anime watchers.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So it's a nice idea, because, they're throwing some filters on top of it, making it look a little more like the modern anime, cutting down the filler and the pacing a bit. So the idea is that, maybe if you get to this point and the edited version is out, you can just watch that version instead. It has the same problems as Dragon Ball Kai has. So, yeah, as it turns out, if you just kind of direct something a certain way and then chop out like 75% of it, the rest of it doesn't necessarily flow as a perfect visual narrative. But hey, if you want a little less time and a little less ugly, then yeah, I guess it works.
Just a little less time, a little less ugly.
Yeah.
So I noticed and I'm assuming that's what these filters are that you had mentioned, but they utilized in that article at least a very interesting piece of terminology, which was contemporary visuals.
Yeah.
Once or twice. And I wanted to ask, since you're watching it and have watched it in the past, like, what does that mean? Because I'm assuming, some cleaning up maybe, but were there character design changes where they did something like that to make it quote unquote contemporary? It's just such an odd term.
Yeah. It's kind of just. Sorry, you're going to say something?
I was just gonna say, just with like the shift in the production for Wano arc, I feel like it's just kind of like smoothing out the edges of like the change in the visual style and color and all this stuff to just make it look a little bit more like what it looks like right now, basically.
Yeah, and like if you remember the Tournament of Power arc in Dragon Ball Super, the aesthetic shifted pretty noticeably from the previous arcs of that series to that one. And most of that came down to a similar kind of filter that Toei was using, where, it makes the lines a lot thicker, gives more weight to it, makes the color a little richer, adds a little bit of like almost kind of texture to it. So they're doing all the same kind of things here that make it look a little bit more like what Brand said, how they've been doing it just from scratch in Wano, and onward from that. So yeah, it's mostly the same material, kind of like Dragon Ball Kai. There were some pieces where they did just like trace over it and make new footage. But for the most part, it's the existing footage with just new filters applied to make it, look a little bolder, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Gotcha. That's like what I had said. I figured that's what you meant, what they meant, how you were describing it earlier. Normally, when people talk about that stuff, you always hear it kind of more like it's being quote unquote remastered, and then it's kind of kept at that very vague term. So just to see that, it kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. And then a couple pieces of news. We're still over 2 months back here. But this is what Kane was alluding to. Surprise, surprise, these pieces of news are not, in fact, Sony, who is buying everything in the anime industry. We'll get to that. But this one's Toho, the famous Japanese film studio many people know from Godzilla and the like. They have been dipping their toes into anime production more and more in recent years. They were a pretty massive force. Even in the US side, they've been really getting into that in the last year or two. They've been very active at like Anime Expo promoting their stuff, to the point that they don't even really involve like the licensors like Crunchyroll anymore. So like all the free run stuff, all the Apothecary Diary stuff, all the My Hero Academia stuff, all the Spy Family stuff, all the Kaiju number 8 stuff, etc., have all been just promoted purely by Toho Animation USA, and not in association with anyone else, Crunchyroll or Netflix or whatever. And similarly, even the latest My Hero Academia movie that just came out, You're Next, Crunchyroll was not involved in that theatrical run at all. Toho handled that entirely themselves. So they've been getting into this in a big way, on the Japanese side, and like I said, recently on the American international side. So their next big move on there was, they were like, hey, isn't there still an American anime company that is not owned by a giant conglomerate? We should probably fix that.
We should probably snap that up real quick.
Yeah, so G-Kids, the company we all know and love, for bringing out initially many anime movies and other international animated features, and more recently some other animated TV series and properties from the past and present, giving lots of great theatrical runs, getting lots of Academy Award nominations, putting on the Animationist Film Festival. They have now been fully acquired by Toho's US branch, which is interesting because, like I said, they license a lot of stuff that's not Japanese. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
It's been a minute, so have they said anything, or has there been anything like to indicate that they might be moving away from more international licensing, or?
No indication yet. Like, they just put out Arcane, so they've still been pretty active with their normal international stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like business as usual for a while. Like, it's going to take a while for anything to change.
Yeah, they'll let them continue operating probably at least through whatever the rest of their fiscal year is, if it's January or June,
right?
Depending on how they do it, and then going from there. Because
Toho has so many like anime productions now, it'll be interesting to see if this affects, like, do all of those just automatically go to G Kids from now on? Do other anime that weren't produced by Toho, does that create a problem? Is there any conflict there? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out.
Yeah, I think it's important to note a little bit that also this isn't like entirely out of the blue in a certain way. Like, I know according to the article, and I think I own a couple of them as well, but like Toho has released stuff through them previously. So it wasn't like they just were shopping around in the United States and just bought it out of nowhere. But I think they did the release for Promare. I think that's the thing that I own that was Toho, I think, right? Among others.
They've definitely licensed quite a few from them because Toho has been involved in a lot of like big anime features like Shinkai movies and stuff.
Yeah, so they've been business partners for a good while in that way. So I did think it was interesting, and they'll never, well, maybe when they have to do like an earnings report, you might see it, or like the quarterly reports, how much the price was, just because I was a little bit shocked to see just 100% acquisition right away. I'm so used to seeing like a 6% or maybe like a 10%, and then it just gradually goes up over time instead of just a full-on, we're just buying you like
you're
outright.
Ours now.
Yeah, you were just ours.
You're next.
You're next. On that note, I don't remember if we talked about it specifically in the news at the time, but a few months back, they did fully acquire Science Saru as well.
Oh,
good Lord.
That's paying off.
Yeah. Yeah, they chose
Godzilla money paying off. Godzilla Renaissance paying off.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Strike them while the iron's hot.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the first piece of news related to that, and then literally hours later, they announced that they were acquiring a 6% stake in Comics Wave Films, which is the studio that Makoto Shinkai makes all of his stuff at. Of course, as we mentioned, they had been producing the last several films that they had released anyway. Of course, G Kids has licensed many of them. So again, this is kind of still all in the family, relatively speaking. But yep, they're definitely making inroads.
Okay.
They saw what Sony was doing and immediately thought it was time to fucking, get balling or go home.
Yeah. All up top.
Yeah.
Sony thing is still so funny to me because I remember right after like the PS3 era where Sony was so in the toilet, everybody thought they were going to shut down.
Nah.
Sony is very diversified.
They're big.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was like at the time the rest of the company was propping up like the video game division, and then it became the video game division was propping up the rest of the company. And now they're kind of like evening out again, but it was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, between video games, movies, music, electronics, and now the entire anime industry, I think Sony's going to be okay.
I think they'll make it out.
Yeah.
Maybe if they make enough money, they can bring back the Walkman.
I feel like they did in some
Did
form.
they?
There's the Walkman is kind of around in a weird way, but not like obviously not a tape deck way.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get
MP4
around to
thing.
that. Like once people start like getting sick of vinyls, I guess. Which I don't know
I
if that'll
mean,
happen.
they have started to reissue novelty cassettes lately. Like, you can buy the Bochi the Rock soundtrack on cassette tape from Crunchyroll today.
What's really funny
That's
about
crazy.
that is that like you cannot get a new tape player that is small like like an old Walkman. They're
Really?
like big bulky things, and everyone's
Oh,
like,
nice.
"What the hell happened here?" And they're like, "Well, we kind of it's like when Polaroid disappeared off the face of the earth, and another company was trying to reverse engineer Polaroid, and they're like, we can't do it. We don't have the technology." And then they finally were able to purchase like the actual equipment. It's like a situation where it's like, yeah, nobody's manufacturing the components that were necessary to make the things that small. And we don't
Yeah.
have the technology anymore to do it. It's just lost technology.
I mean, if I'm going to buy a cassette tape in the year of our Lord 2024, I would like to put it in a giant boombox to play outside my romantic interest apartment.
Oh yeah, totally. It has to have
Play
the
some-
graphic equalizer on it as well.
Yeah. Play some good old Bochi, some Kesoku band. Yeah, that'll definitely get me a date to the prom.
Hell of these things on Sony's website. Oh, okay, there we go. Sony has a digital Walkman that's $80, no, $75.
All
By
right.
now.
That's awfully expensive. Any of these other
Considering
things
everyone
on
owns a phone.
yeah, and the other things on here that are like $1 zillion. Why is that thing $4,000? Is it made out of gold? It might be made out of gold. Wait, let me check.
Probably not a goal.
Can't wait till they bring back the giant brick telephone you put in your car.
Oh hell yeah! I would like a
Signature
technology de-evolution.
Yeah, go big
Yeah.
or go home.
We might need that right now. Actually,
Yeah.
we've reached a breaking point now.
I feel like, yeah, with the way that things keep disappearing, like, no, you can't have that. You can't have that. Hey, Zaslav just like tried to kill Sesame Street. That was a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Laserdisc's coming back soon. Who knows?
True.
Oh, Chris would be so happy if they did.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so then we had the Steins Gate 15th anniversary event a few months back, and they announced a project called Steins Gate Reboot, and it sure sounds like just a basic ass remaster of the original visual novel, which is would already be like a significant step down from Steins Gate Elite, which was a re-release of the original visual novel with the entire thing set to the anime series and new animation commissioned from White Fox for the material that wasn't covered in the anime. So I don't know how this one is so exciting that it gets to be the reboot for the 15th anniversary 6, 7, 8 years after Steins Gate Elite came out, but we will see. Something's happening.
AI upscale.
AI
Oh,
upscale. Heard it here,
no.
folks.
Yeah.
No.
Son of a bitch.
Yep.
Nothing is new.
Very
No.
true.
Everybody's creatively bankrupt.
Yeah, eat your leftovers, bitch.
There is still a Steins question mark spin-off project that was announced years and years ago that has no progress on it yet. So that's supposed to be like a new story within the universe that is like kind of connected, but not a direct sequel or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I
We'll see
think
if anything ever happens with that.
all that tells me is that their more recent, like, newer projects have not had the clout that Steins Gate did.
Of
so they keep
course.
going
Yeah.
back to it. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Back to G Kids. So yeah, we've got remember the company 11 Arts? Anyone?
Hey, 11 Arts.
Yeah, they kind of existed for a minute. So they were kind of doing G Kids' game for a little bit there, licensing anime movies, releasing them in theaters, and doing some partnerships with Chef Factory and Right Stuff to get some Blu-rays out there. Then they kind of stopped doing anything. Then they kind of maybe stopped existing. Then maybe it was that they got hacked, and then maybe they still kind of existed, but not really for a little bit. And basically everyone's just wondering what's going to happen to your licenses, because clearly you're not doing shit anymore. And the obvious answer is that once their rights expire, that G-Kids will sweep them up, because G-Kids was basically the better 11 Arts all along anyway. So that has started to happen, appropriately timed with Naoko Yamada's new film, The Colors Within. G-Kids has acquired the 2 previous Naoko Yamada films that 11 Arts had released, most notably A Silent Voice, which is back in theaters right now. And then Liz and the Bluebird, which was the follow-up with the same team doing a spin-off of Sound Euphonium. Interestingly, this timing came like days after Crunchyroll announced that they would be releasing the Sound Euphonium series from the beginning. That had been put out by the ill-fated Ponycan USA division.
Oh my god, I forgot they existed.
Yep. Yeah, talk about remember them. They put out Sound Euphonium, the first season or 2, in some releases that people were very upset with, and then kind of faded into obscurity after releasing a few other things, because they didn't really have anything that was going to sell anyway, certainly not to the level that they needed to recoup their costs. And yeah, so after all these years, with Crunchyroll having simulcasted the series and the 3rd and final season just having wrapped up a few months ago, they've started to release the series from the beginning on Blu-ray. So we have that getting licensed by Crunchyroll, or getting rescued by Crunchyroll from Pony Canyon, right at the same time that the spin-off movie got rescued by G-Kids from 11 Arts. And there is one more... There are a few recap movies, but there's one essential movie to the plot that was also released by 11 Arts, but it's more in line with the series rather than Liz and the Bluebird. So it'll be interesting to see who gets that, if either of these companies. But yeah, most importantly, A Silent Voice has a new home at G-Kids, and they have it back out in theaters right now, and will probably be... I think they confirmed they will be releasing their own Blu-ray of it. So we'll see if that is any sort of special edition or just a standard.
Was that one of the movies that had 2 dubs, or is that...
So neither of these movies had 2 dubs. However, Sound Euphonium, between the 2 movies I mentioned that 11 Arts released, did have 2 different dubs. Or dub casts, rather. Because Liz and the Bluebird, like A Silent Voice, was dubbed by NYAV Post, and then the one that was more in the series proper was dubbed at Bang Zoom, I think. And even though many of those NYAV Post actors were from LA, they did not keep any of them for their roles. And I think they've been dubbing... I mean, I think the new Blu-rays they're putting out at least have the dub that we haven't had for the series before, probably with the Bang Zoom cast. I'm not sure on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Kestrel buying a Silent Voice vinyl right before seeing a better sale on a Silent Voice vinyl.
Well, I did some calculations with the UK shipping, and it would have been a negligible difference anyway. So
okay, that's good.
Okay. Yeah, it hasn't shipped yet. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Probably because holidays and...
holiday.
Yeah.
Light in the Attic, sometimes around the holidays, you're like, they'll send you an email and be like, hey, just so you know, this is going to be delayed a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. On that note, if G-Kids does literally anything special with their release of Silent Voice, I will buy the film for a 3rd time. Because I bought the original 11 Arts, like, fancy box, and then they put out one that was just a steelbook, and I was like, well, it's not as fancy, but it's a steelbook, so I'll buy it. Because the Silent Voice.
Still, if you said you wouldn't yeah, if you said you weren't gonna rebuy that, I'd be like, who are you? What have you done with Kestrel?
Well, if it's a standard edition, I'm not going to. But if they do literally anything special with it, I'll rebuy it for a third time.
Kate, could you please mark that down for posterity?
literally what I did with the Berserk 97. So
Yeah, me too. I just sold the Blu-ray that I just bought because
yeah, I
I got
have
the
to
Steelbook right after.
think I gotta re-gift that or something.
You can get back basically what you paid on eBay. Like they go so fast. So
Yeah.
I got $35 ish on eBay.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, let's go to some classics here. I think some pieces of this had been streaming a few places over the years, over the decades perhaps, but now the entirety of both seasons of Ashita no Joe, Tomorrow's Joe, are streaming on Crunchyroll. That's like 150-ish episodes between them. Beloved classic, has not really gotten its chance to shine over here, so very excited to one day have time to sit down and binge through all of that. Been wanting to watch that for a long time.
Same. Are they re-releasing the manga now too in like a
Yeah.
deluxe format?
Yeah, I
Yep,
think it
that's
comes out
coming this month.
like a couple
yeah.
days.
Yeah, a
Oh,
couple days.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Hey. Rare synergy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I went to the Kodansha site to look at it, and it was just like, buy Kodansha credits to read the first 6 pages, and I immediately physically
No.
recoiled.
God.
Oof.
Only if it's AI translated, please.
Oh.
Yeah,
Then
and
it's
none of the
worth
characters
laugh.
are allowed to have eyebrows or noses or anything
Yeah.
anymore.
Can we get
Yeah.
an AI remaster of that manga, please?
Yeah, just give me that meme over and over again with the guy putting his hand on his shoulder.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's a good point. We have after, well, let's see, what Megalobox was the 50th anniversary for Ashita no Joe, right? So we're at 55, 56, 57-ish years.
Jeez.
That we're finally getting to read and watch this classic.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm gonna be rolling right from Hajime no Ippo into Tomorrow's Joe, so it's just gonna be nothing but boxing anime for the past and future 6 months.
Hell
Love
yeah.
that.
Okay, yeah. So next up, it's been a few minutes since we've talked about Sony owning the entire anime industry. And they were not okay with someone else getting into their territory. So they've decided to start exploring the possibility of purchasing Kadokawa Corporation, which, for those who don't know, owns a very significant portion of the anime, manga, light novel, video game, multimedia industry in Japan. Yeah, so look forward to that.
I
Like,
love
I can't
how
even.
all the news I've seen on that is like Kadokawa, owner of From Software. Like
I know.
Yeah, that's
everyone's-
all anyone in America knows.
everyone's like,
apparently.
"Oh, Elden Ring, they bought Elden Ring," and it's like, okay, I don't think these people realize how much bigger this is.
Sony is buying Elden Ring. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. The weird, interesting part about this is it's not even on Sony really this time. It's Kadokawa is apparently a trash fire at the moment because like one of the guys at the top is like bad at his job, and if you're, I mean, for yeah, and that's saying something. If your Japanese company is like, hey, we'd almost rather be bought out than deal with you anymore. It's like, whoa, okay. So good times over there.
Yep.
Well, maybe once
Yeah.
they buy it, we'll get a remaster re-release of Bloodborne, and that's what matters.
That's really
All
the best
Sony.
case
That's
scenario.
all on Sony.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is another very significant percentage of the very little bit of the anime industry not owned by Sony that may be owned by Sony imminently.
Great.
That's neat. Yep. Yeah, all right. And then last piece of news we got here. we can almost even call this one news. It is from the past month. Amazing.
Ooh.
So we are already getting a brand new Mobile Suit Gundam television series.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and what's
yeah.
it called?
It is called
Say it.
G-Quacks.
G-Quacks.
Cooks.
Yeah, it is capital G, lowercase, or capital Q, lowercase u, lowercase u, lowercase u, lowercase u, lowercase u, lowercase u, capital X, of course,
Hell
as you
first
all
time-
suspected.
The first time I read it, I went like, cukes.
That's what I did. I went GQ?
I will be calling it G-Cracks. Thank you very much.
G-Quacks.
All your cracks and quacks and cocks and cucks and quucks.
All
Yep.
that. Love it.
All that. And while every Gundam series for the past almost 50 years, 47, 48 years, what is it? No, 45 years, has been exclusively by Sunrise, this will be Kara/Sunrise. Kara, of course, is Hideaki Anno's studio that he split off of Gainax with basically all his guys from Evangelion. They split off to make the rebuild of Evangelion, which took, 14 years. And that was kind of like the first big split from Gainax. The remaining guys made Gurren Lagann, then those guys left and made Trigger. But the Kara crew has not done a whole lot in terms of major anime production outside of the rebuild movies. So this is kind of like their first major production as well. And Hideaki Anno himself will be one of the writers and supervisors of the series, which also, kind of continues the trend of he hasn't really done anything new for like 25 years, and he's just been working on all the franchises he grew up in, or, his own franchises. So, and we didn't even talk about, like, for the 50th anniversary of Space Battleship Yamato, he announced that he was going to be producing a new anime film of that. So, yeah, Yamato, Godzilla, Ultraman, Kamen Rider, Evangelion, Gundam, anything you can imagine a nerdy kid from 50 years ago growing up on is what Anno grew up on and is making now. Of course,
Living the life.
This will be a new story. So it will be, all that it really takes to be a Gundam is, have some robots with V's on their head and war is bad and wow, cool robot, buy our model kits. But yeah, he's doing that with his protege Kazuya Tsurumaki, who has co-directed most of the rebuild movies, also was the director of Fooly Cooly and the Gunbuster sequel Die Buster. His co-writer, the main supervising writer of the series, is Yoji Enokido, who was also the writer of Fooly Cooly, among many other series. Notably, the character designs are by Take, who did the character designs for a few Pokemon series, notably Sun and Moon. So that has a very distinctive aesthetic for the characters. Yeah, definitely a fucking insane stacked staff list for this project. So very curious to see how it turns out.
That was a fun announcement.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know most people are immediately gonna like think about Anno, but it is so cool seeing like everyone else get on that. Like the Take designs are gonna obviously pop off. That's gonna be a lot of fun. And then like the mecha designs from Ava as well. It's like, these things are gonna look clean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's like we brought together the whole classic mecha Gainax crew to make a new Gundam series, everything everyone has ever wanted. And also we got a Pokemon character designer for some reason. Whatever, we'll take it.
I love it.
Like the obvious thing here would be Yoshiyuki Sadamoto character designs, but nope, we got some Pokemon Sun and Moon characters instead.
Hell yeah.
I wonder what this
Oh.
Gundam series single moment of meme-worthy physical violence is going to be.
Single moment.
I was gonna say
You underestimate these men.
Seriously.
Well, because there's the bright slap, there's
Mhm.
Witch from Mercury, the pink hair girl punching out the bully, which is
Choo-choo.
dope. Choo Choo, yeah. There's it. One of my other favorites is from Zeta when Camille just throws that guy over a cliff. He just
fair,
judo
I mean, it was
throws him
girl's
over the
name.
side of a fucking cliff.
I don't know. I think my favorite is Lady Un just shooting that dude out of a plane, and then he just plummeting to his death from a plane, but she had already shot him.
Yeah, I mean the Char super headshot is also iconic. There's just
Yeah.
it's a staple at this point. Ultra violence.
Yeah, between
Impressive
Between-
violence.
yeah, the standards of Gundam and the standards of Anno and the rest of this crew,
Mm-hmm.
I bet it'll be real bright and happy, and nothing will be mindfucky at all.
No.
Yeah,
The
there'll be nothing depressing, nothing alluding to Christianity.
Yeah.
What was it? The Italian website that linked a bunch of plot information.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was the Italian website or something was the one that leaked a bunch of information.
The announcement did come, of course, with this massive cast or staff list, as well as a full several minute trailer. So it really shows off the aesthetic, a lot of the animation, the character designs, the Gundam designs, some music, cool vocal song you'll be hearing in it. There's a girl in the lead again. Gross.
Whoa.
Oh.
Another redhead too.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely disgusting.
Surely no more Yuri bait, right?
It's all
Woke
up to
Gundam.
interpretation. Just
Yeah.
they're just friends, really close friends.
I married my best friend.
No, it's a polycule this time,
Yeah.
or again, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting since Witch from Mercury was just 2 years ago, and the second season was last year. So, considering that had been 7 years since the previous Gundam TV series, this is a pretty quick turnaround. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe the fucking ice cream man's out behind you again.
Yeah, it happens
That's crazy.
every day in the 5 o'clock hour. Yep.
Don't they know it's winter? I guess there's no winter where you
Not
are.
in LA.
Yeah. The kids need their Gundams and their ice creams.
Absolutely. Yep. Anyway, so that is the news I have. Probably forgot some stuff in the past several months, but those were the stuff that stuck out to me.
Oh, there was one new announcement this week, which was I'm instantly forgetting. Oh, Natsumi's Book of Friends is getting a video game of some sort.
Interesting.
That's
With no further information, further information coming December 23rd at 8 a.m. Pacific
I
time.
feel like the most you can do with that is a visual novel.
I know that's what everybody's bet seemed to be at this point
Yeah.
is a visual novel because no one else seems to what else would it be? I mean, I guess it could be like a slice of life, hang out, do
Farm
shit.
sim.
Yeah, farm sim. Don't even be farming to sim. It would have to be something like that summer vacation series that they put out in Japan, or I guess they could do something like that.
Yeah,
Honestly, it's probably gonna be
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be a visual novel of some sort. So
Yeah.
Speaking of anime tie-in video games, that new Death Note one looks silly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I did not see anything about that.
It's like a multiplayer, murder mystery, almost like
Oh, that
Among Us,
Yeah,
sort
I was
of.
gonna say, is it just Among Us?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one series that I've been meaning to get into for a very long time, the Natsume's Book of Friends. So maybe I'll just play this dumb video game.
I'm sure it's the best way to experience the franchise.
That's what I'm thinking too. I'm not gonna read or watch it. I'm gonna play this video game with no context at all to what I'm doing or who I'm interacting with.
Yeah.
Hey, to be fair, that's how I got into Gundam as a kid. I just played the video games until I realized what I was doing. Oh, this is an anime.
Ooh.
Hey, to be fair, in America, that was most people's exposure to JoJo for a very long time was only
Yeah.
through the video games.
Yeah.
Totally divorced of any plot. Just beat 'em up. Just
then-
fighting games.
They made
And
an
then they
anime
watched-
for this fighting game?
Right. Then they watch the anime and they're like, it made more sense in the fighting game.
Alrighty. Well, since we have wound up all of the news that we wanted to go over, I think it's about high time we start our discussion about the season and some of the highlights, maybe one or two lowlights, as we always do. It's important to cover the entire spectrum there. But I feel like it would be a relatively egregious crime if we didn't start our discussions with the runaway hit of the season, and that would be one Dan to Dan. So before we kind of get into it, I wanted to ask if any of you folks were reading this before it came out.
Yeah.
All right, so that is a perfect way to pick who I want to have start talking about the anime brands. So thank you for volunteering. But I did want to know, like, how does this compare to the manga and such? I have one friend who's reading it, but we haven't talked about the show too much up to this point, other than him just reassuring me that the weird vibes from some of the bits in the first episode don't really happen again.
Sorry to say for your friend, the weird bits continue, but this is one of those series that I never in my life thought would get a proper adaptation because the art is just so insane, and for a guy that is making it weekly, like the amount of like double page spreads that are just like so finely detailed, like I have no one else to compare this to besides like Yusuke Murata as like a how does this guy do this every week? And luckily we do live in a timeline where it is living up to those expectations, and you know, Science Saru is really one of the best ones studios in the industry at the moment to get something like this because they aren't afraid to take liberties doing their own thing while also at the same time just like making the moments that need to just like pop off exponentially. So as someone who's read the manga at least up through what is being animated, it is very much like a home run.
Can we call you Brand from now on?
Brand. Yeah, I think from now on that is what I
Duh.
go by. Yeah, but speaking of you, the second we mention the title, I just can't help but let that Creepy Nuts intro creep into my head. It's another immediate banger that people that I know that don't even watch anime, they're like, "Oh, I started watching this and there's this like crazy good song." And they're like, "They had that other crazy good song." I'm like, "Yeah, Mashal, watch that too." And they're like, "Oh, okay."
Can you imagine like more extreme brand pandering? Brandering?
Rendering.
Than Dandadan adapted by Science Saru with extremely high production values, with Kensuke Ushio music and Creepy Nuts opening. Like, this is just like fucking made for you.
Yeah, dude, they have to have hacked my emails and my socials or something because they found out exactly the formula they needed to cook up.
Crazy.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned kind of how crazy the art is and how the mangaka can do it week in and week out, because I think it's one of the things that at least Emily and I really like about it, especially her, is not only the occult stuff, because that's what she enjoys, even if it's just kind of like loosely based off of sort of the North American version of some of these monsters and stuff. The terminology is still kind of there, but she really enjoys how just like crazily diverse the art can be in any one episode. Like very flat, almost doodle-like drawings to these highly detailed, like flowing transformations and things, and they can all just almost blend seamlessly together in a way that I think a lot of shows can't really accomplish without feeling stilted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the comedic moment, everybody laugh. And I don't think Dan Da Dan really suffers from that all that much, which really makes it a fun experience every week. On top of just the ability that it has to tell both this outrageous action comedy type thing with a grounded humanistic, like, teenage love story of sorts that I don't hate yet, which is incredible considering I have very low patience for those types of things.
Yeah, fucking slap that on the box.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kane
You
doesn't
can,
hate the romance.
Yeah.
One of my favorite fun facts about the manga. So you can thank the author Yukinobu Tatsu. You can thank his editor for the fact that there's actually decent romance elements to the series, because when he was first kind of getting his ideas out there for the series before publishing, his editor was like, "Okay, I get that you want to do all this crazy action stuff, but you need some semblance of like connection between the characters, and like your romance stuff that you're trying to do, very one-dimensional." He gave Tatsu an assignment. He said, "Go read some shoujo manga and get back to me on that." And I think that was a big element playing into the success of the chemistry between the main characters. So
Yeah, I think
sometimes
he
editors
talks about
intervening
that.
work.
Yeah, he talks about that in the little video, like interview and essay stuff that was at the beginning of the theater release of the first 3 episodes, because that's when I saw them.
Oh,
And he
fun.
talks about, I think he says something, and he could have been, engaging in some pretty heavy hyperbole, but he did mention he read over 100 shoujo manga. That's what he was forced to do, is his editor gave him like 100 volumes of shoujo manga or something to read,
I love that.
to figure that out and to try to get those romance, or at least, if not romance, just deeper emotional connections and character building than just that mile wide 1 inch deep that you'll get with shows like this. So I want to believe that it is something that others could learn from.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I also would be remiss not to mention that Tatsu also was an assistant for Tatsuki Fujimoto, which at this
Who
point
wasn't?
he's got an all-star list of dudes that went on to make their own like banger series after assisting him. So
Uh-huh. What did he assist on?
I'm pretty sure he assisted on Fire Punch.
Fucking everyone was on
Of-
Fire Punch. Jesus Christ.
It's insane.
So, Fire Punch was the creator of Chainsaw Man, joined by the creators of Spy Family, Hell's Paradise, Don to Don. Do we have any others?
That's the short list, but I'm sure there's some still waiting to make their breakout.
Insane. Yeah, so if any other assistants worked on Fire Punch, fucking watch out. They've got the next big hit on their hands.
For real.
Out of fire.
I'm not sure if that's where he might have got some influence on romance stuff, because I don't think we're pulling from that far yet. But
Do you like pain? Go read Fire Punch.
yeah,
I remember I started reading that based off of, I can't remember, Kate, if you recommended it or if you were just like, you may as well read this. And, okay.
I would that.
The opposite of recommending it, maybe?
Yeah, I think it's because at the time I remember you marketing it to me as like edgy, like edgelord. So
It
I
is
wanted
the
to
most edgelord thing possible, humanly possible.
so that's what I wanted to figure out for myself, and I read through whatever was available at the time, and I didn't hate it, but I do agree it was pretty edgelord in the beginning, but I do like that all these people with these incredibly successful manga or properties otherwise got their start on this thing. It's like the classic, Johnny Depp or Christian Bale getting their starts in like horror movies.
Mhm.
Or
And things
most
like that.
people. Horror movies are soap operas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fire Punch is a little bit of both.
yeah.
Fire Punch is a little bit of everything.
But what you mentioned earlier, Kane, about how much liberty they have with the creativity with the different creature designs, I think it is fun that Dandadan doesn't really pigeonhole themselves as like a yokai story specifically, where it's like we're gonna see, all the classic yokai that always come up in anime and stuff. It's like we got we got yokai, we got aliens, we got like American cryptids, we got like all kinds of cryptids. We got Shin Godzilla version Nessie, like
Hmm.
they're really pulling from every mythos they possibly can.
How deep do they go on like North American like cryptid lore? Do they did they do any like real deep cuts?
I don't know how deep it is, but the latest one was from Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, I think they did like a Mothman thing.
The Dover demon or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then they
I was
also
like,
just,
yeah.
they turn a mantis shrimp into this like salaryman boxer. So like the
Who's
sky's
also
the
a gig
limit.
worker.
Yeah.
Yeah, gig work.
Hmm.
Yeah, we discussed it a little bit in our last episode, actually, just about Kensuke Ushio's style and how well it fits for Danadon. But it does really, like, use tonal whiplash as its strongest characteristic. It's, like, so good at successfully pulling that off and making it part of the charm instead of being, like, jarring and unpleasant. It's, like, kind of disarming and discordant in the right way. Um, so yeah, it's a very unique series, I feel, because it has that bizarre Science Saru energy that fits really well, but it is also a pretty standard shonen action series in all the ways that make that work. And it's able to blend them in a really unique way that we don't really get very often. It's like maybe a little bit of Chainsaw Man, a little bit of One Punch Man almost. And then, like you said, the drama, the romantic comedy elements are very funny. And when it gets serious about the character dynamics, you also get like really invested in the romance of it. And then, of course, like episode 7, just the insane tonal shift that takes to the point of it being, we talked about Kensuke Ushio's kind of dichotomy being the silent voice type stuff versus like the Yuasa type stuff, and for it to just like jump right into the more silent voice tone for this just incredible poignant drama in the middle of that, not only utilized his range incredibly well, but is just remarkable that it could jump between those just drastically different stylistic choices and pull it off. So yeah, really impressed with the series.
Yeah, it's been something that we look forward to watching every week, just for like everything that it has to offer, which is nice in that sometimes when we watch shows here, it's like we like the same shows but for slightly different reasons and things. But I think Emily gets likes all the jokes and laughs at some of the absurdities behind the characters and their behaviors, on top of still the central conceit of sorts being the retrieving of a person's
Right.
golden testicles. So
it is, yeah.
It is ridiculous in like all the right ways without feeling like it's trying too hard to be ridiculous. And I think part of that is because it just lives within the rules of its universe without trying to justify them too much. It's just like, oh yes, of course it would be his balls. and then everyone just moves on with the idea that we need to retrieve these. It isn't something that has a lot of like build up and then an explanation as to why it's his testicles, and then of course they have to explain it over and over again to be like, don't you get the joke? It's just something that, as ridiculous as it is, all the characters eventually just accept it as their reality and then continue to live and treat it as both a ridiculous concept and something serious at the same time to get his nuts back, which is really funny. But I enjoy that part in particular. Everyone clearly invested in this to the point that even Okarun doesn't really bother to correct people anymore about it. He's just, yeah, this might as well. Everyone knows what we're talking about now. So
I'm very interested how well this works for like a mainstream normie audience, because like you have this easy sell shonen action material, really cool animation, and you have this incredibly poignant drama, and then at the end of the day, almost every plot device is about some villain trying to steal this kid's dick and successfully stealing his balls, which he has to retrieve from all around. And that's just like a constant thing. You'll just go straight from like the Acrosilky flashback to an alien with giant scissors coming out of his crotch to chop off Okarune's dick. And that's just what this series is. So like, how do you sell this to normies? I don't know. Does it work?
It does somehow.
I guess
It does.
so.
My girlfriend, who is not at all into anime, like trying to explain I'm like, that golden ball is his testicle, and she's like his testicle is a golden ball, and I'm like, how do I explain to you like the golden ball significance to like how Japanese people just like call it that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I was wondering if that worked for everyone too, because it is literally just the King Tama pun, which doesn't necessarily translate that well because we don't necessarily call testicles golden balls in English. So yeah, I'm curious if that works for everyone as well.
I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to work in that way because of the sheer ridiculousness of like everybody knows the delicateness of the family jewels, and then to have them just be these spheres and stuff is enough on its face that if you don't get it, it still works out perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Like the idea is enough to communicate the joke and everything like that. In terms of it working for like normie audiences and stuff, that's a good question. My only answer I have off the dome is a cynical one in that ridiculousness helps balance out the character building romance parts for the people who are icked out by that in animation, because I like work with some people that like Dan, but they don't like the romance parts because they're like, I like the action and the comedy, so that stuff counterbalances it. I don't believe that is at all the desired outcome, but I think it helps people who don't really have an interest in that portion kind of stay engaged or keep it lighthearted to be like, haha, funny, dick balls.
Yeah, and I feel like they just kind of meld and intersperse it enough that, fans of one thing or the other are not going to like watch a whole episode and be like, wow, why didn't anything happen this episode?
Exactly. Because every episode just goes all over the place. So you definitely get a variety bag each week.
Yeah, you are not allowed to rest for a moment.
No.
There's always they always up to some bullshit in every episode.
For real.
Which certainly helps.
My one concern right now, which maybe this will be very outdated depending on when this episode gets published, is that this Thursday is the last episode of the Dandadan anime as announced so far. And of course, it is doing very well and we'll get another season. But for now, I don't know if you have any thoughts, Bran, but it sure seems like they're just starting a new arc and they have one episode left to go, which seems strange.
Yeah, the thing about Dandadan is there really isn't like a lot of clean cuts in like one arc to the next one. Besides like, if like a battle takes like multiple episodes at a time. I'm actually a few behind, so I don't know exactly where it's stopping. I know they've introduced Juji, right?
Yeah, like the last episode
Yeah.
was basically the GG introduction.
Your GG, yeah. Which I've been looking forward to, like the fan reactions of him, because I remember when the manga was coming out, people like hated him at first. They were like, "Oh, he's stepping on Okarune's turf, bro. What's he doing here?" But he just becomes another lovable idiot in the squad. I love
That's
him.
what I figured would happen, yeah.
Yeah,
Because that was certainly Ira's role as well.
yeah.
We just fucking love how fucking stupid Ira is.
Yeah, and Gigi has probably the most like silly faces per capita of anyone in the squad, so he's going to be a welcomed addition. Don't you worry.
Yeah, it really went just heavily front loaded the silly faces immediately.
Yeah. Like right after the cliffhanger of like, ooh, who's this hot young stud who Momo used to be in love with, and then just as soon as the next episode started, it was just, oh, he's a fucking idiot.
Yeah, he's a fucking dummy.
I don't even think that I don't know if the anime even addressed it yet, but I have heavy doubts about this first love thing in the first place because the only person who said it is Auntie, and she's a lying bitch. So
I fucking love her. I love how she refuses to acknowledge the existence of aliens as an alien is flying away in its extremely stereotypical UFO right in front of her. It's like, yeah, it's a kappa. This is just a normal kappa thing.
yeah, you've never seen this before?
Just a Tuesday for me.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like after maybe the previous episode, if they didn't end with the GG teaser, that would have been a clean ending. Because they got through the Ira stuff, the Acro Silky stuff, kind of the follow-up to that, where you see them working together, the Chiquichita, whatever dude, all that kind of stuff was resolved with the weird fucking milk plot.
Is it the milk blood gig worker? The task rabbit?
Yeah, I'm just gonna
actual cow being abducted.
Yeah, cattle mutilation.
Yeah, I will say the first couple arcs are just kind of like bang, bang, bang like that. I feel like it won't be till the second season where we get like maybe half the season will be like a full arc. So, but yeah.
But yeah, it seemed on this next arc with Gigi's story and Okarune's remaining Golden Ball, and then we've only got one episode left. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they cut it off, how much of a cliffhanger it'll be.
Yeah,
Obviously, the hope is that by the time you're listening to this episode, you already know that there's a new season of Dawn to Dawn confirmed. But
yeah, I gotta believe they're gonna announce the second season pretty soon after, if not like at the end of the last episode.
Most likely at the end of the last episode. So we'll know about it before the simulcast even happens.
Yep.
Nice. All right. I think on that positive note and the anticipation of what's going to happen with this one episode left cliffhanger, I think we can safely move on to the next show, which I think has generally been well received as well. I know I'm really enjoying it, and I can understand why some people... Well, I understand why some people don't, but I wholeheartedly disagree with it. But I think it's time we talked a little bit about Dragon Ball Daima. I think... Did we touch on it a little bit in the Dragon Ball and Toriyama episode? Or I remember just joking about the keeping the webpage up to date for it.
Yeah.
Because of the lore stuff that it's introducing, but I don't know if we actually talked really about it.
Yeah, I want to say that when we did our first episode of the season, it was like right before Daima started, and then while we acknowledged that one of the reasons we were doing the Dragon Ball episode was because it had just started, we didn't really talk about it in specifics at all, so we really haven't discussed it.
Cool. So yeah, I don't know about you folks, but I'm really, really liking Daima a lot. It is very nice to see Dragon Ball, like the universe, kind of shrink its scale, shrink its stakes a little bit, and get back to sort of the comedic adventure, action-y type bits that made Dragon Ball, so enjoyable as it was, because I like Super as much as the next person, and the movies and all of that. But it is nice to have a variety of villains and action set pieces and things, and kind of moving a little bit away from just strong humanoid character fights Goku and friends on a desert planet-esque atmosphere.
Yeah, I think if we went right into tournament format kind of thing, I'd be much less interested in Daima as let's just make Chibi Tournament of Power.
Right.
Yeah, that would not be nearly as interesting to me as the whole reason I was interested in Daima in the first place was, one, it was marketed as sort of a return to old school Dragon Ball comedy, fun, adventure, and two, I saw Goku using the power pole and flying on Nimbus in the preview images and stuff, shit you just hadn't seen for so long, because the power level scaling had rendered all of those tools and little charming bits of lore and atmosphere completely pointless.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really nice to see that come back and kind of have everybody sort of brought down in size, both physically and I guess their power levels and stuff. So we can get, a bar fight, which was
Yeah.
fun as shit. We can get a bar fight. We can get them trying to fly away from a giant, kraken octopus creature rather than just Goku like blowing it up or something like that. It's just it really kind of adds a lot of fun variety. I don't really care too much about the lore of the Dragon Ball universe because I know that Daima has added a lot to it, like where Namekians originally came from, and who's a demon and who's not, and how the Supreme Kais kind of came to being. And I do find that interesting, but I also, especially after recording our episode about Dragon Ball and Toriyama and stuff, and then reading the manga theater thing that I just finished, and he talks about his general, like, writing and drawing ideas. Like, he doesn't particularly and didn't care about the lore and would just change it on a whim because he thought it would be funny. So I try not to take that too seriously at this point. But yeah, I've been really, really enjoying it so far. I think it looks really nice. It's a breath of fresh air. I'm sure we'll get more Super-esque content. I mean, we just recently had the Beast Gohan, movie and all that for that classic feel and stuff. But yeah, I'm particularly enjoying Goku's adventures with Glory Hole. And
oh my god.
that's my favorite meme. Just
Glory
just
hole.
Glory Hole. That's when I remember going on the Dragon Ball subreddit to see people's attitudes towards the show, and everyone was just already calling him Glory Hole, and nobody was questioning it. That was just the name.
Oh man. Yeah, I think you touched on it a bit that like Daima is definitely going to be a bit divisive, and I think that's just kind of natural with the territory of, at this point in Dragon Ball's tenure, there is a split between the fandom where there are people that appreciate the original Dragon Ball, and there are people that love DBZ and grew up on that. But there is a significant portion of modern Dragon Ball fans that are just Dragon Ball Super fans. Like, there are probably enough young kids nowadays that, like, Super is, like, what they think of when they think of Dragon Ball. And, the difference in that just being, like, a power scaling nightmare of just, like, dick slinging one way or the other, who's stronger, compared to, like you said, we're toning down the stakes, we're toning down the power levels, and just having a good old-fashioned adventure. There's going to be a lot of people that can't immediately get on board with that, and that's unfortunate but when they have shown, the moments of like good fights, like you said, the bar fight was just like so silly and fun and well animated. And I just wrapped up the episode where Goku fought the first guardian of the Dragon Ball, the Tamagama or whatever.
Oh yeah,
called.
and that looks great too.
That was such an excellently animated fight, and it's like those people are missing out on this because they just can't sit through just like some chill times. Which is unfortunate because I also think that like it looks great. For some reason, I don't really like I never really caught onto the style of Super. I never really liked how it looked particularly, but I think like the color grading and the character designs in Daima are super appealing.
Yeah, I think they're very sharp and clean, which is what I like about them. Like well defined, and everything is like as proportional as it can get, and like very crisp, which is appreciated.
Yeah, and and it allows for more of like those wacky, almost chibi-esque Toriyama character designs, like when they found that Minotaur in the cave.
Yeah.
This jacked up beef boy, and then he like immediately just like trounced by Goku's power, and he's like immediately becomes like a comedic relief piece.
Yeah, he knows what's up.
Yeah. Like,
he isn't trying to fuck around.
Yeah.
I think that episode is when you got your first peek at Goku still being able to go Super Saiyan as well, if albeit for only a few seconds.
Yeah.
So you still get those transformations too. And for the people who don't like the chibi design, I'm pretty sure they get, turned back into adults eventually because the opening theme has him as a grown-up still.
Hmm.
So I'm assuming they get retransformed back at one point. Who knows when that is, but that appears to be in the cards sometime, which would be kind of cool as well. As long as if they I would love it if they, since this is like a spin-off, they just turned everyone back into adults, but then kept their power levels at the same for the sake of just keeping up with where the show was. So then I could still see a grown-up Goku doing sick-ass bow staff shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would be great. You said you just... Which episode did you just finish, Bran?
I just finished the one where he acquired the first Dragon Ball, so
Okay.
I'm a few episodes behind. But speaking to that about their power levels, I have a feeling they might, work that into the narrative with the main Majin, like Demon Lord bad guy being like kind of like a trickster, elusive magic dude that he might pull some bullshit that keeps them from having their full power or something like that. But we'll see.
I would be perfectly fine with that.
It would also be cool to see Super Saiyan 3 no eyebrows kid Goku. What that would look like. His hair literally like he's tripping over it on the floor or something. I would love it.
I think that would be...
Kind of already had that with Gotenks too.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that Gotenks kind of gives that vibe off too. But I would like to see it as well. I think you could have some fun comedic moments on top of that as well, which I do enjoy. Kestrel, I'm pretty sure you rated this pretty well in your expectations. So, I wanted to get your opinion in on this, like how you felt about it, especially with... I know Chris earlier, and this is one of the ones I understand, where he's like, the first episode was rough, and I get that because it's just like an intergalactic DVR of the Majin Buu saga. But yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts and feelings on it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm super positive on it. I do think it looks incredible. Most of Super looked like a pile of shit. And when it didn't, it was mostly thanks to filters more than actual quality artwork and animation. And this one, like the Broly movie, just looks amazing out of the gate. And especially after Superhero, I'm really glad that they're going with just the classic 2D Toriyama aesthetic because it just works so well. So very happy with everything Toei is doing visually. I am glad to have, lower stakes, more creativity in the challenges and fights than just, basically bigger, badder, musclier bad guy for Goku to punch until he stops existing because he can destroy universes. So it's nice to scale that down a bit. It definitely recalls some of the classic nostalgia of early Dragon Ball, which I do miss, and it's nice to get some of that feeling a little bit. I don't think turning everyone into a kid was a necessary gimmick. I think it kind of got old pretty quickly. I think a lot of the humor is not great, which, Toriyama always had his hits and misses with that. But especially considering that the main plot of it is what GT was also predicated on, kind of seems like a weak excuse to bring the scale down, especially since your modern actual child in the Dragon Ball universe can still destroy universes. So just making them kids doesn't seem like that necessary for that purpose. Could have come up with some other conceit probably. So yeah, those aspects, just having it all be kind of kids interacting. And I know that Goku never really grew up, but like he's really just regressed to like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to believe that this is a man with like children and grandchildren.
What's weird is I don't. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. Goku's just a fucking bloodthirsty moron.
Yeah.
And he's never cared about raising his children.
I mean, that's true, but he's like back to you have to force him into a bath kind of mentality, and it really feels like he's regressed in every way. And I get that they're trying to go for the old school kind of feel, but yeah, I don't know. It doesn't all work that well for me. It's definitely like, the anti-Super in every way. So all of Super's faults are kind of remedied here, and all of Super's strengths I'm not seeing as much. So it kind of balances out. Yeah, obviously I'm still enjoying it well enough. I have no intention to stop watching it. I'm curious, and I don't know that we'll ever get an answer, how much Toriyama was involved. Because, we could be getting stuff that he never had any say in, or he could have outlined the entire plot. We have no idea how long it's going to run for, how much he contributed throughout the process, character designs, story beats, any of that. So, yeah, it's certainly going for a certain appeal in Dragon Ball fandom, which, a lot of Western audiences especially is not the Dragon Ball that they grew up on. But I appreciate that it exists, and I'm definitely curious to see where it goes, because I feel like it's, less obvious than Super. Super, once you were in a tournament or whatever, you kind of could tell how everything was gonna happen. So at least it's got a little bit more variety and unpredictability in that sense. So yeah, I'll take the good with the bad, I guess. It's always the case with Dragon Ball, I suppose, to some extent.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest conceit with it is, I feel like it's just a product of what I call Toei pacing. Is that I feel like just in the modern anime environment, most shows they have their 12 episodes and they need to get plot out in that 12 episodes, whereas we're definitely a little more leaned back on the Daima adventure, but that sometimes feels like we're inching along. And like we said, Goku's been so flanderized that he's literally a child, and anytime like Supreme Kai mentions something, Goku's like, "Oh, what's that?" And then we have to get like a full explanation of everything before they do it or see it, or anything they do, they kind of need to explain it. And I get it. They're also, giving us a new Dragon Ball to hopefully maybe cater in a new era of kids into Dragon Ball. And
You know what's hilarious about that?
yeah,
All Dragon Ball anime that has ever existed has always aired in the family time slot, like Sunday morning or whatever. This is the first Dragon Ball anime to ever air in the late night adult anime time slot.
that is so weird. That is crazy.
They're trying to get the cool kids.
Yeah.
But it is really bizarre because it feels like a baby show for babies. So, yeah.
It really does. And that's what I chalked it up to, which is insane. You just told me that the time slot, because it feels like it's supposed to be for kids. And, it's fine. It's just like a little harder to, retain people's attention nowadays, especially, like I said, with the speed of a modern anime plot. So I feel like for those people on the fence of like, is this Dragon Ball for me? It might not hook them fast enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the pacing is one of my bigger issues that I didn't really address. And, obviously there are reasons for that when it's adapting an ongoing manga. But when it's an original story, it's clearly just, we're dragging this out, we're milking it for as long as we can because we know that we can, because that's the formula we followed and that's been successful for us. So why not keep it up? Especially if it's like, here's these nuggets that Toriyama gave us, his final parting work. Let's see how far we can stretch that.
Yeah.
Man, I was gonna make a bad pun joke, and then you said his final work, and I'm like, oh, now I can't step all over that.
For shame.
Yeah, those are well thought out reasons and everything. The thing I was alluding to before was, one of my coworkers did not like how it wasn't a power scaling tournament. But he's more than old enough to have known that Dragon Ball was a thing before
Right.
Dragon Ball Z. I'm like, you have no excuse.
Yeah, I mean, Toriyama kind of created this dichotomy in the fandom from the beginning, because he made one 519 whatever chapter manga straight through weekly, and it went from almost a pure gag series to almost a pure power scaling action series. And that's just exacerbated in the US by Dragon Ball Z, the anime adaptation of the second half, coming here first and much more prominently and having so much more exposure. So it creates these kind of two mindsets about what Dragon Ball is supposed to be. And it was always, kind of both. And it gradually shifted from one to the other. So if you only have one of them in your mind as Dragon Ball, then yeah, you're going to have issues. And now even the new productions are kind of following that mentality of either you have the extreme, this one extreme, or the other. And that's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can shift over to a show that I know that Kestrel, you and Bran are watching, and Kestrel in particular, you've been a pretty big fan of the output of this property since the new kind of story and arc started. But I figured we'd keep kind of the gravy train of the good stuff going here, and we could shift over to Bleach. And it's still called 1,000-Year Blood War, right? Like,
yes.
Okay, cool. Because I don't watch it, so I know that it has its own, sublines, and then there's arcs and all that stuff. So I did not want to fuck that up. But
1,000-Year Blood War Part 3 Final Season Chapter 1.
Exactly.
Of
In
course.
fact, they just announced the Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc Part 3, the conflict, two-part finale.
Oh my god.
Event happening in a few weeks. So, yep.
Oh man.
The conflict is such a fun and probably incredibly underselling way to put that. It's just like the disagreement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It is the big conflict, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, to subtitle the 1,000-Year Blood War with the conflict.
Yeah. It was a bit of a kerfluffle.
Yeah.
But yeah, how would you guys take a couple minutes? You can discuss how great it is, because it is, I know that I don't watch it, but it is nice to see it back kind of at a high place, since I remember the ending of the original was not particularly well received, at least in the manga form, or I think the anime too, because it was kind of a, they were locked together and then they came back as Blood War, and it seems like everything is okie dokie once again.
Which is the crazy thing, because this is the final arc of the manga, which sucked in the manga, and they are just,
weird.
Yeah, creating fucking gold out of that pile of shit. It's incredible. Yeah, it's like, I think in terms of quality of source material to quality of end product, in those terms, it's probably the best adaptation of all time. Just how much better they made the end product than what they had to work with. It's insane.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate of Bleach, where the production value is firing on all cylinders for every version of it, and everyone you knew from the anime and manga before are back, and we're all here to fight the big bad guy. Which that's kind of how this season has felt to me, up to at least now that they're finally at the conflict.
Finally conflicting after 3 cores.
Yeah, 1,000 years. It did take 1,000 years.
It did take 1,000 years, true.
But no, it's amazing. And the thing is, the end of the Bleach manga is like so far in the recesses of my brain that like I'm trying not to give it a benefit of the doubt. Like, was it that bad? Like, it was a grind to like read through that, and it really was just a series of ass pulls where like someone would get in the upper hand, and then the next chapter is like, oh, actually, I can see the future at all times, so you're not going to kill me. And then Ichigo's like, oh, well, actually, I have a new thing too. And it's just like back and forth, and it's just that until the final moment where it all ends. And the difference here is that, like, instead of it feeling just like a back and forth of one-upping each other, it's more full ensemble. Everyone else gets like a piece of the pie. Everyone gets to show off and have their fight, and it like just looks so beautiful and sounds so good. Yeah, they're really milking it for all it was worth, which wasn't worth much. So, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've been talking to some friends about how it compares to the manga and just like how much they're adding to it and how much they're tightening up the pieces that really dragged. And, you know, we can blame editorial oversight for a lot of the problems with the final arc of the Bleach manga. I think it was a combination of that, of Kubo not quite having his structure down, and Kubo just being burnt out. Because, you know, now we have, after 10 years of reflection or whatever, he's able to come to the table, work with the anime team, and come up with what is the best version of the story I was trying to tell that we could possibly come up with none of these restrictions, none of the hurry up and wait, none of the drag this out because it's popular. Oh wait, now it's not popular. End it really quickly. So all the stuff that should have gotten so much more time to shine is getting that time. So much better character studies, so much more satisfying character developments, incredible fights where sometimes they were just like one panel in the manga, kind of off-screened. You just have these amazing spectacles to behold. Like you said, Shiro Sagisu's soundtrack is just like exceeding anything he had ever done with Eva or Bleach, even in the Rebuild movies. He's just incredible. And yeah, the stuff that was really dragging is much tighter now. That, like, I forget, it was a couple episodes ago, but the first one with like Shunsui, his first focus one, I don't know if you made it to that, but it was just like I know I was talking about how amazing that Donadon episode was, right? And then
Yeah.
like a few weeks later, we got this Bleach episode that was like, God damn, we are eating well this fucking season. I cannot believe it.
Is it also one of the 10 best episodes of TV ever created?
Probably. I mean, I said maybe 50 best TV. I'd say that about this Bleach
After I
episode.
said I don't know about that, before you said clearly top 10
No.
episodes of television ever.
Do we need to go look at the receipts? I said one of the best of television. I gave no numbers. The only time I gave numbers was when I said 50 of TV, 10 of anime.
It's no Ozymandias.
It's no Ozymandias, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is just like filling in the gaps that could have made it the finale that it now is. And, you know, a lot of that you mentioned about the constraints and like them literally probably just weekly being like, all right, it's doing well, keep going. All right, it's doing poorly, stop.
Exactly.
It felt like Kubo was just like stuck in a corner, and a lot of things ended up falling to the wayside. Part of that being he just stopped drawing backgrounds. He just like it was just like big white panel, Ichigo like slashing his sword, and it's just like you don't know where you are. It was just so like disorienting, and now we have like these fully realized, it's like, oh, now I know where they are at all times. Like, oh, they're fighting in the Serete, and oh, now they're up at the Soul King's like castle, and it's like, oh, wait, I can actually see the trails of like how this is panning out now.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it all looks so amazing. Not a frame of this season has been anything short of stellar. So yeah.
Especially now that like we are on like Thousand Blood War Arc Part 3 or whatever, you would expect like, oh, there's gonna be like a quote unquote budget episode here and there, but it has just been a tight production the whole way through, and it's amazing that it's getting the love it deserves all the way to the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very smart choice for them to, you know, one, not even start it until 10 years had passed since the Bleach proper anime ended. but also only do one core per year so that they can just really make sure that every piece of it is perfect.
Yeah.
Still ass pulls, like, don't get me wrong.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
still ass pulls left and right.
Yeah,
But
I am.
they get away with them.
Yeah. The second the main baddie gets like his like full on powers is when I've been like afraid of what's gonna happen, because I was like, how do they fix that? Because that's just like really like once they give him the power he gets, it's like, okay, how do we circumvent this? So
I think they just sell it with so much confidence and just make the presentation so fucking cool and easy to get invested in that you're like, all right, I accept this at this point.
Yeah.
This is fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the Dawn to Dawn testicle premise. It's like, yeah, all right. That's just what we're going with. That's cool.
How much is roughly left, if you know, considering this is the last bit of it?
That's another thing, is it was always announced that it was going to be 4 parts. And we're getting to the end of part 3. And I mean, I could take a look back, but I feel like we have like nothing left from the manga. So I think they've just been adding more and more content with each core. And it definitely makes sense that they have to add so much to the final one, because not only do we have another core to fill, but at the last stretch, the last few chapters of the manga are when it was really obvious that they were like, all right, Kubo, it's not selling anymore, wrap it up. Because he just rushes the fuck out of the conclusion, especially after dragging out so much. So yeah, I think the final part will probably be like mostly original content and probably be much better for it.
Yeah, I mean, it'll, at the very least, they're going to tie up loose ends with characters that just like stop getting screen time at the very end, because they're like, all right, we just need the main conflict to end. And also we'll probably get a legit epilogue, whereas in the manga I think we got like maybe 3 pages of just like, and now here's what happened after.
Yep, here's a few panels for the shippers.
Yeah, maybe not the shippers people wanted, but the shippers got what they got. That was a crazy time. But yeah, no, it's smooth sailing, I will say.
The fact that it is this good is the most unbelievable thing that has happened in anime in the past 10 years, I think. There's nothing you could have told me 10 years ago that I would believe less than that Bleach was going to be one of my favorite anime every season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still surprises me when you bring it up, and I'm just like, oh, I'm used to this thing just sucking hard, and now all of a sudden it's whenever it's airing, it's always in the top, couple that you have there. So clearly they must be doing something right.
Also, around the time that this core started, the Bleach anime hit its 20th anniversary. And so Piero put out a little like celebration video for that, where they very briefly, like very quick little montage of all the like really key iconic moments of the Bleach anime animated in the current style. So now everyone in the fandom is just like, oh my god, please remake Bleach from the beginning in this style with this pacing and everything. It would be so incredible.
That would be nuts. I do wonder if, because I feel like there are 2 routes. There is that route where it wraps up and then we're like, let's do it again. Or is this all just set up for the new Burn the Witch universe tie-in?
Do they really care about Burn the Witch?
I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, does Kubo care enough? Like, is that what he wants?
But wouldn't he have done more by now if he cared?
That's the thing. It just feels like he's like drip feeding it, and I thought it was well received enough. Definitely not to the levels of Bleach's popularity, but like, yeah, I don't know. That's probably not the way they're gonna go. Maybe it'll get like a movie here and there or something, but
I mean, I could see it. I could certainly see like this does incredibly well. They followed up with some big Burn the Witch project, but it just seems like that has so fallen by the wayside. Seems like a quick little experiment kind of pilot they did, and it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah. Who knows?
But see. I'm ready for the Bleach.
The Bleach.
The Bleach.
Oh man.
Don't let them hear you say that.
Oh, please hear me say that.
Please, Kubo.
Alrighty. Well, I think it's about how high time we move from an anime that's doing everything right to an anime that's struggling to do nothing but the wrong. So I didn't want to just pack our podcast episode full of shows that we enjoy, trying to balance it a little bit, and it's hard not to recognize a show that had so much potential to be good based off the first season, and has just kind of been a bitter disappointment for most of its run here, and that is Blue Lock, which Kestrel unfortunately has dropped after 4 episodes. He has locked out.
Yeah. I have locked off.
That's right. Locked off is the terminology. Kestrel has officially locked off.
Kestrel didn't have the ego.
No.
He did not. Yeah, he did not have the ego to continue the episode. He's weak.
I will say, I can't wait for the 10-year anniversary when they announce the Blue Lock.
No.
Or Blue Lock, the first lock off, a movie that just puts together the first season and then a second movie afterwards.
Don't worry, there's already a Blue Lock movie that just puts together the first season of Blue Lock.
Is that the Nagi thing?
Yeah, it's just from Nagi's perspective.
Oh,
Nice.
Really? That's what that was?
Yeah, it's like mostly original content because Nagi's not in most of the first core.
Yeah.
But it is just the events of season 1 from Nagi's perspective.
All right.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that it did that you could call worthwhile is it spelled kind of a portend of things to come.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were talking about how that didn't look very good compared to the first season either.
Man, it looks a lot fucking better than this season does.
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have estimated just how bad the new season looked, but there were people who said, this doesn't look good. What does this mean for the second season?
Yeah.
If anything, and they were unfortunately correct in their concerns. And that's, I think, a good place to kind of jump off here, especially for Bran and I who are still watching it.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate because, like, I'm still very interested in this series. And,
yeah,
like,
me too.
I love having a sports series like this that is just like a lot of fun. There are a lot of great characters, and I have nothing against the plot or anything. It's just a glorified slideshow at this point. It's just unfortunate. It feels like we're back in the mid 2000s anime slump of like we're putting this out there so that you go read the manga instead.
Mm-hmm.
Because at this point, I think that's what you should do.
It's a motion comic.
Yeah.
Oh,
They could just change the marketing and the title of it to just Blue Lock Season 2, a motion comic. And then maybe when enough time passes, people will assume that's what it always meant to be.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I even struggled to kind of find some positives in the production, because I know early on when we had, briefly touched on it in earlier episodes, I was at least trying to commend them for creative use of their means of being like a slideshow of sorts. Like they would utilize fun on-screen graphics to make it look like a fighting game when one character was going up against another really quickly, or the cuts to the like strategic kind of like game piece thing to explain the defense. Like at least it was trying to paint over the clear issues it was having with its actual animation. But as we get into the big match, the whole everything has been culminating up to this point, and it still doesn't look good.
No.
it has really kind of taken away my ability to defend it. And
Yeah.
I'm with you, Bran. Like I still am really interested in the story, and I like the characters, and I still really love its approach to sports. Like a lot of sports anime, tends to veer more towards that whole like the team bonding and everyone getting along really great and striving together. And Blue Lock is more like I'm only using you as a teammate to further my own gains.
Yeah.
Like it is a nice fresh perspective from a team sport anime to have it be like, yes, we're all teammates, but we're not gonna be necessarily best friends, sharing this experience. It's we are all here for a fucking job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll probably start reading the manga as well, but there's a certain part of me that, and this is just me being myself, but wondering if I would if I would like it more or just the same, because my brain at one point would be like, well, what's the difference in me reading the pages in black and white than just kind of watching a motion comic in color
Yeah.
every week?
Yeah, I guess that's the difference though, is that even between like getting keyframes that look good, there is just like an excessive use in the CG, but like with
Yeah.
actual movement that doesn't look good. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
at the very least, the manga, we would probably see the motion a little more clearly and well laid out.
Yeah, it would be portrayed with uh, like discernible purpose
Yeah.
and framing and everything to make it look as actiony as possible in the still medium that is manga. And I think that is a very good point, as opposed to watching characters slide around.
Yeah. It is really a shame too, because I loved the additional time, like little bits at the end, but now it's like it's almost as if the show itself is stuck in additional time
Yeah.
and there's just like the most minimal animation possible.
Yeah, I feel like additional time is now better animated than the show proper. somehow.
Yeah, that is a surreal place to be in. Your 30-second gag at the end looks better than the entire episode has collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, this is me putting on the tinfoil hat, if like the Japanese soccer organizations were like pouring money into it because of the World Cup run, and then like World Cup ended, they're like, all right, we're pulling out. And now they're like, wait, please help.
So what's weird is that at least like on the US side, well, okay, one thing I'll say, in Japan, it's fucking huge. Like every store you go into, there's just walls and walls of Blue Lock boys.
Yeah.
Of course.
And yeah, so they're hot boys.
Yeah, they're hot muscular boys playing soccer.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them.
And there's a ton of them, and they all have crazy hair.
They all have gimmicks.
And the one does memes.
But even like in the US, every fucking convention for the past year, they have had like 3 to 5 dedicated Blue Lock panels.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's like I've never seen anything promoted as much at conventions as Blue Lock. And they have like, the seiyuu there, they have the producers there. Maybe if the producers were back at the studio instead of in America every weekend, they could watch the production and make sure that it was on track. But they're just pouring so much into it except the actual product itself, which is very bizarre.
I wonder if they have a gacha game, and I bet that looks better than the anime.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah, there's 100% a pachinko machine that
I was gonna say that too.
murdering this anime.
There is a Blue Lock pachinko machine that has like the most beautiful rendered in 4K, animation that you've ever seen in your life. It'd bring a tear to your eye as you lost every dollar in your wallet.
Yeah, so the correct way to experience Blue Lock in 2024 is to fly to Japan, go to Akihabara, and play Blue Lock pachinko.
Yeah, I mean they've been very, as of course they would be, really like cagey about the issues, because I know there have been obviously the requisite Twitter, threads from people involved being like, we're trying our best, we're doing everything we can, and other people being like, well, who do we blame? Which, they're not going to really do that. But it does make you wonder, for sure, about what it is how could this have happened? For something like Kestra was saying that is becoming so huge from a marketing and sort of like cultural anime like presence. This isn't some rinky-dink thing that got, underground status or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but if they keep having these panels, I wonder how long it's gonna be before people are like tossing popcorn and like garbage and shit up on the stage.
Apparently, people made a Blue Lock in Roblox, so that might be the place if you want to see some animation.
Ooh, that is the go-to, is the Roblox Blue Lock.
Oh man,
I think they might have used some footage from Roblox for some of the in-between scenes in the anime, actually.
Nice. Yeah, that
Usagi's
Twitter
looking a little
thread
blocky in this one episode.
Yeah, that Twitter thread that you posted in the chat, Kestrel, is the one I was referencing in particular. Yeah. Is that this is definitely not one of those, like, the animators were just bad.
Right,
like, and I think we even talked about that a little bit. Like, clearly the art is still solid, which doesn't help the disappointment, because it's not like a lot of like the close-up art with all the crazy eyes and hair and all that has really dipped as much. Like, there are people who still care trying to make it. They're just being hamstrung by something.
Yeah, they just don't have the time. They don't have the resources.
Damn you, committees.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that. And what's also nuts is, now take this with a grain of salt, but when you go on like the anime subreddit and communities, it's still being like rated highly.
Really?
Yeah, I think I just checked last week, and they're like r/anime's top shows of the season as of like last week or so, and of course Dan to Dan is like number one. Then I think Blue Box was on there. Then I think an isekai that I'm not familiar with, that's having like a second season or something. And then, there's fucking Blue Lock at like number 7 out of 10. And they rank all the way down into the 20s.
Yeah.
So I think maybe just people are so invested in the characters themselves, in the handsome soccer boys, that they're willing to really overlook it.
Yeah. I feel like there is still a general pull for the median watcher because, like, of course, we watch enough and talk enough about shows like this and have to contrast, a show animated as beautifully as Dandadan compared to this one, whereas someone who has just been watching Blue Lock and, like, casually, like, experiencing anime, I'm sure it's still an amazing time for them.
Yeah.
But
here, I'll give you a pull quote to throw on the box Crunchyroll. Not as egregious as Uzumaki.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, that's a low bar to cross, though.
At least it's not Uzumaki. Fandom Post 2024.
Yeah.
Oof. DeMarco in shambles.
He knows what happened.
He knows what he did.
All right, well, that's probably enough of ragging on a show and kind of bringing down the tone a little bit. So I think the last show that I wanted to talk about, I think I'd mentioned just ever so briefly in the last few minutes here, and that is the other blue show of the season. That is Blue Box, a fun little like high school romance, I think, sports show as well. I'm not watching this one. I know there are sports involved. I just don't know how much the sports are there as opposed to the romance part. But you folks can educate me a little bit on it.
I will say that while both of them are the blue sports shows that almost kind of rhyme of the season, in fact, this season has Blue Lock, Blue Box, Blue Exorcist, and Blue Miburo. So at least 4 blue anime this season.
And
the other blue show that we're going to dignify.
Yes. The bluest of all.
The bluest.
Yeah.
Bluey, of course. Yeah.
Oh my god. We can talk about Bluey for a couple hours.
Absolutely.
Damn,
My
Bluey's
favorite
probably
anime.
better animated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, it for sure.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, tell me a little bit about how Blue Box is going. This has been recommended to me by a couple different people. I just haven't had the time to pick it up because I'm watching 5 or 6 other shows, which unfortunately for me is just about my ceiling to keep up with them with any sort of regularity. But this
Mhm.
has come up to me on a couple different occasions.
Blue Box is definitely the like primo current running romance show or romance manga in Jump, and it's getting that treatment in the anime. It looks gorgeous. It sounds gorgeous. The voice acting's really great, and it is. That's the thing is it is a romance first and foremost, but it doesn't. The thing I love about it is that it doesn't skimp on the fact that both main characters are heavily involved in their own sport, and the sports are very well done as well. So, Blue Box's badminton animation is kicking the shit out of Blue Lock. So,
Right.
it's got that going for it.
How does it
Yeah.
compare to like Hanebado back when that was airing?
Oh man,
It's comparable at least, right?
yeah, I would say
And that's
so.
clear. I remember Hanebado went hard in the paint.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like Brand said, it is a romance, but it does take a lot of time to focus on not only discussing how important sports are to the characters, but actually showing the sports matches. And as we get further in the manga, there will be, chapters upon chapters that are just sports matches. So yeah, definitely doesn't skimp on that. It's definitely not just like window dressing for a romance.
Yeah, and I mean, it is like besides the romance element, it is like the driving factor for both main characters in their romance is that they're like they both want to go to nationals and they both kind of inspire each other to be better athletes, which I think is really cool.
Right.
It is wild to me at this point in 2024. Like, if I look back to when I first started reading Blue Box and when I first started watching Blue Lock, I think I thought at this point in my life I would have been like, Blue Lock is still up here. It's killing everything. In Blue Box, I figured I was gonna peter off of, but it's done the opposite, which is very wild.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
it's always been a very charming manga, and yeah, the adaptation, I mean, it's not Bleach level, but it's very solid.
Yeah, and there is a point in the story which I haven't watched up to the point yet that was a low point for me in the manga when there was like a bit of a love triangle conflicting romance thing going on, and I was fearful that the series was going to fall into the typical pit traps, and it was looking like it was going to with like misunderstandings and this and that, but thankfully this series does really pull it together, and I feel like they wrap up some of those misunderstandings and the characters end up at like really good points in their relationships with each other, whether romantic or not. Which I haven't gotten to that part in the anime, so I don't know if I will feel as soured by it, because I was very close to dropping the Blue Box manga about 20, 30 chapters in when that was happening, but I stuck through it, and I'm glad I did, because I feel like the manga only got better from there as both the romance and sports aspects evolved, so I'm expecting the show to just heighten that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I've always enjoyed the manga. It's one of the few Jump manga that I've actually just read every chapter since it started. Usually I'll read 3 chapters and it doesn't really grab me and I'll stop. But not only have I continued to enjoy it in that form, but I think experiencing it, even though I already know what's happening in the anime, has just elevated everything just a tad. Again, not like to an absurd degree, but it is definitely not doing anything wrong in its adaptation. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How does the show look and everything? Is it pretty well produced?
Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
like blow your mind, but looks nice. It's pretty.
No, yeah, I'd say it's not a what I strangely want to compare it to is like Komi-san as like another just like big Jump romance where it's like the anime at first anyways like really oversold itself on how it looked compared to like the simplicity of the manga. Whereas I
Yeah.
feel like Blue Box is very comparable in its visuals, and the anime does very much capture the manga's art style really well. So yeah, it's very consistent.
Yeah, I think the manga art is pretty detailed. It's an experienced mangaka. So it's the kind of aesthetic that you can't perfectly recreate in animation. So I think what they were able to capture with that and what they were able to add with the color and the movement, it definitely gives you the sense that, like, yeah, this is how this story would look if it was made as an anime first, while still feeling very familiar to people who have read the manga. So yeah, it's doing a good job.
Yeah.
Also, the opening sequence is directed by Tetsuro Araki, who's the director of Death Note and Attack on Titan, and he's been just kind of killing it with anime openings recently. He did the last Vinland Saga opening and the last Danger's My Heart opening, which were both just beautiful, and I'm very glad to see him, even if he's not directing new series all the time, still coming out with these really beautiful pieces of animation for a minute and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they did a great job picking the seiyus for the show as
Yeah.
well. I feel like all of the voice actors are like just about what I was hoping to expect from who they chose. So
Mhm.
sounds really good.
Nice. Well, I'm sure that hopefully, in a twisted way, we have another slow season with like nothing great, so I can go back and watch this just because I am bad at keeping up with all of the really good stuff over a year, which is why I still haven't finished like half the things that I wish I could watch, because every season seems to have a bunch. It's like, we're eating good this season. So
It's funny, I
I
thought the past couple seasons we were not eating that well, but this season, very, very solid.
I think that's more of just like my general taste and what I like in
Sure.
everything. So I haven't had a particular, and the fact that I don't watch a ton anyway. So like it needs to be bone ass dry.
Yeah. That's
Right.
that's my problem. I'm always like, oh, maybe next season will be pretty chill, and I can just kind of catch up and just like lay off the gas a little bit, because I haven't even looked at 2025 lineup, and I'm sure I'll still be watching 10 shows that I'll not be caught up on.
Yeah.
Apothecary Diaries is back next season.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
Real
know.
soon.
I know. Excited, but also there goes the bad season.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one that I would like to catch up on as well, especially if the romance part is done relatively well. Since I know those, at least for me, are rare, so I like giving them a shot when I hear that it would be one that I would like. But yeah, so that's pretty much all we were going to cover for this season, which puts us right in our kind of wheelhouse here for the recommendations part of the podcast. I know, Kestrel, you were working on quite a list, so I figured if you wanted to kind of pop us off here with either the list or at least the highlights from it, we can get that going. Because yeah, just as there was a lot of news over the past 2 months, there was also a lot of things anime or anime adjacent released as well. So yeah, let's have it.
Yeah, so, we haven't done the standard recommendations portion really in the past few episodes as well. For the Dragon Ball episode, we only recommended Dragon Ball stuff. For the composer episode, I kind of kept it to, works from those composers. I do want to just touch on something I think I forgot to recommend with that, which was the Apothecary Diaries soundtrack. You do have to import it from Japan, but as just like a really great selection of 3 of my favorite composers of all time, you get all of them in one set there. So that's Satoru Kosaki, who I talked about, one of my favorites, if not my favorite right now, who also did most of the music for Monogatari and Haruhi. And then you have Kevin Penkin, who also did Made in Abyss. And then you have Alisa Okehazama, who also did Jujutsu Kaisen. So 3 powerhouses, and each of them gets 1 full disc in the soundtrack. So if you want a really good variety of really strong composers, I would recommend that one. And as for some Blu-ray releases from the past couple months, we finally got all of 86 on Blu-ray. None of it had ever been released before, so finally got all of that in one package. That is a series that has a lot of really great aspects to it, so definitely recommend that. Also, Attack on Titan is finally over with the final season, the final chapters on Blu-ray and DVD limited edition and standard editions. It's a nice thick boy because it has to contain all 3 parts of the final season. So it's going to take up some space on the shelf, but it is definitely a nice conclusion to that, what we've been collecting for over a decade now.
That include like the 2 specials or whatever.
This set is specifically the 2 specials.
Gotcha.
So even though it is very fat, it is only 2 episodes essentially. But
I'm sure a bunch of extras and art.
Yeah, it's got your art books and all that kind of stuff, as well as just the space to house the previous sets. So, yep, that's out. Also, as we alluded to earlier, very shortly after Discotheque finally re-released Berserk on Blu-ray after it had only been released in like singles on DVD from Media Blasters decades ago, they released it again, this time in a steelbook. So if you haven't bought it yet, or if you're crazy like us, you can buy it again. And like I said, I was able to turn around my standard Blu-ray on eBay, opened and used for $35-40. So the demand is there. So if you need to upgrade, don't worry, you can make most of that money back.
Yay!
And most importantly, for anime Blu-rays, of course, next week we are finally getting the first half of Frieren Beyond Journey's End on Blu-ray. This is going to be one of their, like, part 1 gets the standard edition, part 2 gets the limited edition that will, hold both parts. So part 1 is relatively simplistic, but it does have some art cards, some goodies, a bunch of different art throughout, like the slipcover, the inside, the reverse cover, the discs, all that stuff. So for a standard edition, it's still got a little bit for you to get excited about. And of course, it's Frieren, so buy it.
Yeah, pretty much. You should not need to be excited about it.
Right. In terms of some streaming content, I did briefly mention One Piece fan letter. If you have experienced One Piece in any form up to the time skip, this is perhaps the greatest thing that's ever come out of One Piece. It's stylistically way different than anything you've ever seen in One Piece, even compared to the episodes directed by Megumi Ishitani, who was in full control of this project. And it blows all of the feature films completely out of the water. And if you are a fan of One Piece, it is truly the fan letter. It is everything you could have wanted to celebrate 25 years of the anime. It's remarkable. So definitely highly recommend that if you're a One Piece fan at all and for some reason haven't watched it. If you're not caught up, you can skip to this if you've made it to the time skip. Please do.
I didn't know this thing existed because I've been so off the One Piece radar. So
hell yeah, watch it right after. Yeah, Megumi Ishitani is a fucking genius. She needs her own dedicated project. Like, oh my god.
Yes.
Anyway, for other streaming content, although I have not gotten to it yet, as I mentioned in the news, you can watch all of Ashita no Joe, Tomorrow's Joe on Crunchyroll, and I will certainly be doing that when I have the time. So I will recommend that, as well as the hardcover deluxe edition that will be coming from Kodansha in the next few days. I imagine mine will be shipping pretty soon. So very excited for all of that. I had previously mentioned Look Back. It had a fairly brief, wide theatrical run. Some major cities like LA have continued to show it at a few theaters. It recently came back to a very select handful of theaters, including some here, where they gave out special art boards, mini shikishi drawn by Fujimoto and Oshiyama, and autographed by them. They're prints. They're not like individual drawings or autographs. But yeah, so I watched it in theaters again for that. And if you don't have it in theaters, it is available on Amazon Prime Video now. So I highly recommend everyone go check that out. And for some non-anime stuff, there's been some good stuff. Like I mentioned, The Penguin before. That wrapped up. That was very good throughout. So still highly recommend that. But most importantly, in kind of the anime adjacent side, Arcane had its final season on Netflix. Hopefully, it won't be 3 years before the G-Kids 4K of that. And hopefully they have like a nice set for the complete series since this is the final season. And yeah, I mean, I think since the first season came out 3 years ago, I have never put Arcane any lower than like my third favorite television series of all time. And the second season, I don't think it's any weaker. I think some of the episodes are even stronger than anything we got in the first season. As a conclusion, it might have left a little bit to be desired. I still would absolutely put it in my top 10 of all time. So still absolutely one of the best TV shows in decades. But yeah, it's maybe not as perfect as I could have hoped. But still, highly, highly recommend that above almost anything else other than, Freerin.
I gotta get around to watching the second season.
Yeah. Yep, that, I believe, is everything I was trying to remember to recommend. Over the past several months, I keep being like, okay, right, when we have recommendations again, I gotta recommend this. This is really important. So, yeah, those are the heavy hitters for sure.
Nice. Brian, do you have anything?
Nothing off the top of my head, really, so I'll just reiterate, go watch Look Back if you didn't have a chance to see it in theaters.
Yeah.
It's like, what, 60 minutes, basically? Yep. So, 60 minutes of peak.
Yes.
Yeah, you do not need to dedicate a whole lot of your time to it, which is nice as a one-shot OVA type thing. So even if you didn't like it, it was an hour of your time.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. The only thing I really had, and it's more of a recommendation based off of the looks of the packaging. But
you speak my language.
The Afro Samurai Steelbooks are really nice. They have really nice art on the front. You get the Resurrection movie as well as the complete series. Out of it, I don't think they're new Blu-rays at all, so you're not getting like new transfers or anything. But if you haven't owned it before, I think it's like $30 gets you both. And it's a really good series and really interesting set of like voices and stuff in it because it's like Samuel L. Jackson and Mark Hamill and Lucy Liu and people like that in anime and stuff. So it has that like cross-platform appeal, and I think this came out in like the mid 2000s when that may not have been as kind of common. But it's super good too. Like action's great, soundtrack is great. I think this set is maybe missing a director's cut version of Resurrection, which you can get separately, which is why I say that this is more for the type of packaging. And if you just haven't seen it previously, since it is quote unquote on the older side and not exactly like, I don't know, held in super high esteem.
Yeah.
But it is super dope. So you can go out and buy that. And for the $30 price that I think you'll find at most places, like that's really super reasonable for this as well. They're not trying to get you a complete, albeit short series and then a movie and then be like, that'll be $60. So I know I have it on DVD still, so I was thinking about getting this to update it. I have that original like fold out DVD case and stuff, which is cool in its own right. But yeah. But that was about it from my end. So I don't know if Kate, if you had anything in particular from your manga collection, your vast volumes.
My vast volumes is under not exactly culling cataloging situation. So I've been moving a bunch of things around, and haven't been reading a ton, more like moving books around. Plus, I bought like $250 worth of books at the Massachusetts Independent Comic Expo, so that's all taking priority in my casual reading pile at the moment. I will say that Infinity Nikki came out, and that has been sucking up all my video game time. So if you want to play a beautiful open world gacha game where you're gachaing clothing and dressing up pretty and running around gorgeous environments, taking pictures and collecting shinies, and then making more clothing, you will, like me, lose a bazillion hours of your life running around. So yeah, that's my life lately. Cataloging books and too much Infinity Nikki and getting behind on all my reviews.
That's what the gacha will do to you.
It's what the gacha and seasonal depression will do to you. It all just kind of melds into a leave me alone, I just want to be over here.
Coalesced.
Yeah, I think gacha primarily depends on seasonal depression actually as a business model.
Probably. Oh man, I bet it's like their Black Friday, but the fourth quarter of the year.
Yeah, for like 5 months.
Yeah, is amazing for them in that case. That does remind me of another thing. Speaking of speaking of taking pictures, the new Indiana Jones game is good as hell, and you can take pictures of cats in that.
You can.
Yeah, and you get bonus points and shit for it.
Oh man, I got to play that when it comes out for PS5.
Petting cats and punching fascists. We love it.
Yeah, it is the perfect video game. It checks all the boxes of the things that I want to do. So that's another good one to look at. Yeah, it's on Xbox now and PC I think, but yeah, it's PlayStation. It's a console exclusive locked or whatever you want to call it in today's day and age for a little bit yet.
I hope someone makes a Twitter account that's like, can you punch the Nazi?
We do need enough things so that Twitter account needs to be made.
No, nobody's on Twitter anymore. Everybody's over at Blue Sky.
Yeah, only the Nazis are on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter has become the Nazi bar. Everybody's over at Blue Sky now.
Alrighty, well then I think it's about time we wrap it up for the evening. So, Castro, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you and where they can find us?
You can find me on Twitter because I'm a Nazi, apparently. No,
yep, that's about right.
Yeah.
I said it's a Nazi bar, you know.
Yeah.
Stop hanging out at the Nazi bar.
Yeah, I know. No, I did. I made me and our podcast Blue Sky accounts since the last episode we recorded, so you can find us there now. But yeah, obviously we're dual posting for now since a lot of people are still on both places. Anyway, you can find the podcast wherever you find your podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube when we don't trigger copyright violations.
I warned us. We did it anyway.
Yeah, we knew it was going to happen, but whatever. I haven't
challenge authority.
Yeah, if that went through. But anyway, some of our stuff's on YouTube and YouTube Music. Most of it is, or all of it is everywhere else, I believe, or most other places. So Spotify, iHeartRadio, any podcatchers you use, SoundCloud, all that good stuff, Amazon Music, Alexa, etc. And you can find us on fandompost.com. You can find the podcast on social media like Facebook, Twitter, and now Blue Sky. Handle is Fandom Post Radio everywhere, so that's fandompostradio.bsky.social. And you can find me, and you can just email us, fandompostradio@gmail.com as well, since social media is a trash fire. You can find me on all those places too. I'm Full Metal Kyoma on Twitter, and Kestrel Swift on Blue Sky. I never posted on Twitter, and I still never post on Blue Sky, so probably don't follow me, but whatever.
It checks out.
Yeah, and you can find me reviewing Dotadon every week on fandompost.com. And since I did just mention that Frieren is starting to be released on Blu-ray, I will go ahead and point you all in the direction of that 5,000-word Frieren review that I wrote again. Would love to get as many eyes on that as possible. And since I mentioned Look Back again, I'll just mention the interview I did with Oshiyama for that as well. So yeah, check out all those things, and lots of animation as film coverage with lots of interviews on red carpets as well. So lots of stuff.
Nice.
Damn, Castro plugged the hell out of himself.
Hello,
That's how you do
Lots of
it.
stuff sometimes.
Impressive.
Nice. You could find me at Hellshake Brando on all the socials, including the Nazi one.
Including that.
Not up to much. Hopping on that look back train, if you watch the movie on Prime and want to see more about it, I wrote a review for the manga a few years back, so you can check that out over at Fandom Post.
Yeah.
Nice. And Kate, what about you?
I am over at Blue Sky. You can find me over there at Sonic Bug. That's my handle on the interwebs. I am posting reviews on Fandom Post still, kinda, sorta. We aren't getting many manga in to review anymore because the last company that actually used to send us shit has finally ceased sending us shit. And this isn't, this is just because the big corpos that own these places don't actually want to spend any money on PR or, promotions or literally anything. So yeah. But we'll still reviewing stuff because we all have backlogs that we haven't touched in a hot minute. And I will be reviewing Apothecary Diaries. I'm going to catch up on Orb and put out probably just a big wrap-up post for the rest of the episodes on that because boy did I fall off that show. And
I don't know if this is going to be welcome or unwelcome news, but it is 2 cores.
I know.
Okay.
I meant a catch up of the episodes that I haven't
Okay.
gone to. I know. I'm still gonna finish covering it. I'm just way behind. And Natsumi is still good, by the way, just in case anybody had any questions about that. Nobody did. Everybody knows that show's good. Yeah, that's it. That's it for me.
Excellent. Well, as always, you can find me right here and only here. So get your kicks when we release the episodes. But excellent. So as always, thank everyone for listening. Hopefully you're enjoying your season as it wraps up, whether it be with Blue Box, Blue Lock, Blue Exorcist, or any of the other blue color-based shows that are airing this season. But until next episode, we will talk to you all later. So stay safe. It is starting to finally snow and get some wintry weather in some of the parts, so make sure you dress accordingly for warmth. But yeah, thank you all, and we'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And this is episode
150.
150. Oh, we should have said something. I didn't even realize. That's a big number.
It's funny, we did like special episodes for the past 2, and then our normal last episode was 150.
Hey, well,
Yo, we're
Whatever.
flipping the paradigm.
Yeah.
that's okay.
We didn't do anything special for 50 either, so
That's true.
it's got to be a multiple of 100 for it to matter.